sometimes I'll get recognized at the grocery store, because people will say, "Oh, you're married to that food writer." Yep, that's me. I think for a long time, a big motivating factor in my life, especially at Moz, was guilt. SparkToro is going to be a drop in the bucket, but I want to make that drop as big as I can.
Rand, our users are marketers and writers who create content for the audiences. And I thought that it would be helpful for them to know more about your platform, SparkToro.
Sure, yeah. So for content creators in particular, I think the big challenge that a lot of folks have is around knowing what to create and what's likely to do well, and also knowing where to promote and amplify their work so that you can reach more of the people that you want to influence with your content. And SparkToro is quite good at both of those, probably even better at the latter than the former. But what it essentially does is SparkToro is an audience research tool. So it shows you information about a group of people's online behaviors and demographics. If you wanted to reach, for example, architects in California or chemical engineers in Italy or the UK, you wanted to reach people who work in packaging design, SparkToro can tell you things like, what do they pay attention to? What podcasts do they listen to? What YouTube channels do they watch? What hashtags are they using? What words and phrases are they talking about online? And then you can use those topics to and the insight that you can gain from all those popular places to figure out what to create for an audience. And also, once you've created something, figure out where and how to amplify it to reach the audience you want to reach.
And you've been in digital marketing for quite a long time. How did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, a little while. Let's see. So I started in marketing in 2002, 2003. So yeah, been a few years. SparkToro specifically came out of my co-founder Casey and I were looking at how some marketing agencies and consultants were helping their clients to not just content marketing, but also advertising and social media marketing, building audience personas, those kinds of things. And we saw that a good number of folks were spending $100,000, $200,000 or more on reports from agencies that would tell them, here's where you can find your customers online, here's what they do, here's what they follow and watch and listen to. So all of which are very valuable things, right? If I know where I can target my audience online, my advertising efficiency can improve and my spend on PR and media relations can improve, the content that I create can improve. So there's all sorts of things you get from it, which we totally got. But we saw that some of these agencies would, and in-house teams too, they would, put a couple of engineers on a project. They'd get a huge list of email addresses of their clients. Then they'd take that email list to Full Contact or Clearbit or another identity resolution service. They'd try and find those people on social platforms. What do they do on email or on LinkedIn? What do they do on Twitter? What do they do on YouTube? What do they do on Reddit? And they'd try and build these maps, and from that produce these reports. But Casey and I thought, my God, this is, these projects would take 6 months, 9 months, a year to get one report that would show you this data, and it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so we kind of had this idea like, hey, if we built something that could do that for you in a few seconds and charge you, $60 a month, $100 a month, that might be interesting to people. That's where SparkToro came from.
You launched SparkToro 3 years ago.
Almost 3 years, yeah. April of 2020.
Has your vision changed since that time?
I think a little bit, yeah. We've refined some of the things that we want to do, some of our focal points. I would say that today we are more strongly narrowed in on understanding a group of people's behavior across different networks, across the web, trying to figure out what topics they're interested in. When we started, we were very Twitter centric, and we still have Twitter as kind of our primary connector network, but we're expanding much more from that, and I think becoming a little bit a little bit more holistic and global in our viewpoint around this stuff. So
I used ChatGPT to find your famous quotes. And
oh yeah. I wonder how accurate it is. You gotta
I'm not
watch out.
sure. Every time I ask for quotes by Rand Fishkin, I tried different wordings, and sometimes it's 5 famous quotes by Rand Fishkin or 10 famous quotes from Rand Fishkin, and it comes up with different quotes. So I'm not sure which ones are original, which ones just assigned, but they all sound authentic, like yours.
And this is the problem with ChatGPT. It's really convincing, right?
Really, really. I'm not sure if this is your one, but you'll probably remember.
Okay.
So optimizing is not enough. You have to have a vision.
I don't think that's mine. That doesn't sound familiar.
No. Okay. But I think this one is quite important, yeah, for any content creator. So optimization versus original vision. So without vision, you can do nothing. And you can't
Yeah,
argue
I think
with that,
I mean
probably.
I like some of the sentiment behind it, right? I think if you take the most generous interpretation of what that quote means, it's sort of suggesting that there's local maxima and then global maxima. And optimization can only get you to the local maxima, not the global one. So, I mean, I certainly think that there's a lot of people who start from a place of trying to improve on a tactic or even a strategy that isn't as good as what they could get from choosing a different one entirely, right? So.
And do you have any method how you find your vision?
For me, I'm a very values-driven vision person. That's not to say that it's right for everyone. I think that plenty of folks ideate and iterate around their strategic vision based on their beliefs about a market or their beliefs about customer segment or about competition, or future, what they think the future is going to look like. For me, I really like to do it based on my values, life goals, what I want to see in the world, even if it's not necessarily what I believe will be the most successful possible iteration of a thing. So for example, with SparkToro, this SparkToro is a product where I think if we had wanted to, we could have built out a sales team. We probably could have sold it into organizations and sold reports, that are obviously quite easy for the software to produce, but we could have sold those reports, customized them, and probably sold them for $10,000, $25,000, $100,000 on an individual basis, and then license the software for, a lot more to big agencies and corporations. But even if that would have made us more money, it probably would have made us more money. That's not what I like to do. No offense if you work at a big company, but I don't really care about helping big guys. Like, I think Amazon and Google and Microsoft and Facebook and all, they're going to be fine. They don't need my help. I want to help small businesses, startups, early stage founders, folks who are trying to get their feet, creators, Etsy sellers, people with an idea and maybe a few dollars, but the folks who are in the small and medium business world, that's who I like serving. And so that was SparkToro's strategy, right? That's how I decided how we were going to serve our audience and present our product and position it, not my beliefs about, what would be the most financially high ROI way to get money from the market. So you can do strategy in a lot of ways, though.
When I think of your approach versus approach of some other digital marketers, I can say that Rand Fishkin offers digital marketing with a human twist.
Yeah, and a particular variant of humanity. My idea of what human is different, for example, than maybe what some other folks does.
Can your vision change over time? Can your goals change over time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for example, for myself, when I was running Moz, my goal was, get the company to an IPO, become a unicorn startup, right? Try and return a tremendous amount of money to my investors, my venture investors. And I found that those goals were both incredibly challenging, obviously, right? Very, very few entrepreneurs ever get there. And they did not make me a very happy or productive person. I think that I spent a tremendous amount of time and energy feeling frustrated and not being able to connect the work that I was doing or the reasons that I was doing it with the person that I wanted to be or the world that I wanted to see. And,
Interesting.
Some people really like helping millionaires and billionaires get even richer. That doesn't really appeal to me. I don't know. So it was weird to sort of be, hey, maybe some of our team is going to make a little bit of money in a transaction like this, and they might do okay. But is it good for the world? Is it good for our customers? Is most of our team going to benefit from this? Or is it going to be like, great, I get rich and some investors get rich, but nobody else really makes anything? That whole model kind of sucks. So with SparkToro, we raised money. I didn't have the money to fund it myself, right? When I left Moz, I didn't have anything other than the salary that I had made, and raised money from small angel investors who, put in between $5,000, $10,000 and $100,000 each. And they are not, super wealthy people. Some of them have quite a bit of money, but many of them don't. And they all participate pro rata in profit sharing over time with SparkToro. So they put their money in, and then we pay them back their money, and then everybody gets profit sharing, including founders, including our team. I think that's a much more equitable way of sharing the success that hopefully the organization has.
So this time you made it your way.
Yeah. We had to invent a whole different model, right? We worked with an attorney and put together our unique model. I don't know of anybody who's done it this way. Now there's some folks who use SparkToro's docs, which are open sourced. We open sourced our funding documents. And there's some seed stage investment, startup accelerators that are using SparkToro's model now too, which is great. But we kind of had to start from scratch when we did it.
So we can find those documents online?
Yeah. So if you search for SparkToro funding in Google or Bing, you'll find the documents that we use. The blog post has a link to them. They're open sourced in Google Docs. You can download them and fill in the blanks and use it for your own startup. And several people have, which has been really wonderful to see.
I haven't heard about. I'm following you. I read all your messages, all your emails, and all your posts, and watch webinars, but I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I generally talk about that when I'm helping out entrepreneurs and startup folks, and less in the context of like SparkToro helping marketers. But yeah, it's a cool thing that we've been able to do, and it's been amazing to see. I think there's 4 or 5 companies that have used our funding docs to raise their own rounds, which is super neat.
Can competition stop you?
I mean, I suppose, conceivably. But for example, when I was at Moz, we were kind of always worried about competition. And I think competition can really hurt you if you need to be the monopoly, right? If you need to be the only player or the absolute biggest player in a field, competition can really hurt that. But if you're happy building a small few tens of millions of dollars a year business, much harder for competition to stop you from taking your niche, right? What we do well, no one else is going to do quite that thing quite as well for exactly our audience. I love being kind of that X for Y, right? We're audience research for small and medium businesses and agencies and consultants who help them. And we think we can do that more affordably and better and more directly than anybody else. And other folks, right? An audience or an agency that's helping folks, or a manual team that's doing it in-house. Helixit.ai, BuzzSumo has a BuzzSumo, who's their owner? The people who own them have an enterprise product that does kind of the things that SparkToro does. You have to configure it manually, but you could pay a lot of money. You can get that. They have data at wider scale and more coverage of different countries than we do. Great, right? So everybody's serving their own niche. Where I think competition doesn't harm you is when you're trying to build your specific business for your specific customers, and you really focus. And that's what I like doing. I don't need to build $1 billion company anymore. That makes me quite happy.
In your book, Lost and Founder, you told a story about how you promoted Moz. There were regular blog posts, but after that you found a new format, a Whiteboard Friday video.
Yeah.
Now with SparkToro, you use slightly different approach. You don't have any weekly videos, but you send blog posts and run webinars. Do you find this promotion methods more appropriate for your audience, more engaging?
Yeah. So, I think that a few things are true. One is, when I was at Moz, we built up a big marketing team. I had, probably between 12 and 30 marketers that I worked with, depending on the time frame in the organization and where we were in our growth. And so we could produce a tremendous amount of content. We could throw a lot of different things at the wall. With SparkToro, it's just me and Amanda and Casey, the three of us, nobody else. So we've got to really focus our efforts. That's why you see, much less content creation. A lot of the work that I do is behind the scenes and on the product and the strategy and some customer service and legal and finance stuff, right? Gotta be a one-man band to be a tiny company of our size. And so, yeah, I produce, maybe a blog post every week or two. And I do a lot of video. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, especially, or Twitter, Facebook, Mastodon is where I've been putting more and more stuff. I put out a healthy amount of short video clips that sort of help people understand what SparkToro does and talk about how the product solves problems, all those kinds of things. But we're not nearly as focused on the marketing and promotion side of things as we are on kind of the underlying product and helping that to be something that sells itself. So one thing we've done that's different from Moz, if you wanted to use Moz, you had to sign up with a credit card, right? You put in your credit card, you start a free trial, which worked fine, right? Worked very well for that SaaS model. With SparkToro, we have a free version, forever free version. You never have to put in a credit card. You can keep running searches, for months on end. We're actually making the free version considerably more generous starting tonight, actually. So that product, right? The fundamental core product of SparkToro is a lot of what's doing our sales for us. People try out the free version, they like it, they use it, and then 3, 6, 9 months into using it, they go, I kind of want even more from this. I think I'm going to pay for the paid version, right? I'm going to upgrade. Sometimes people upgrade and they only need it for a month or two, and then they, go back to the free version. And sometimes people buy it for a year because they're going to be using it every day. So different model, different way of promoting, but very product centric, right? Trying to make the core data that's provided be the interesting thing that people come back to us for.
Another quote from ChatGPT. When it comes to marketing, the right mindset is just as important as the right strategy. Is it yours?
Sounds really generic. That sounds like ChatGPT wrote that. Like they took a bunch of stuff. The right mindset, what does that even mean? Doesn't mean anything. Say it again. The right mindset is more important.
Is just as important as the right strategy.
It sort of sounds smart without saying anything.
Yeah.
Some pretty good machine learning there.
Okay. Yeah, let's skip this one.
Well, at least Nazim, at least ChatGPT thinks I sound smart.
It does. It does. I asked, who is Rand Fishkin? And he replied, he's a technology entrepreneur, author, and the founder and former CEO of the online marketing company Moz. He has written several books about online marketing, search engine optimization, and the use of social media. He is now the CEO of SparkToro, a software company that helps businesses understand their target audiences.
Hey, that's pretty good. That's good. I'm impressed. Yeah. Way to go. I mean, they missed a few key points. For example, I think I'm most famous for being married to Geraldine de Ruyter. This is how most people seem to know me these days.
Interesting.
Yeah. So my wife has become very internet famous for a bunch of her writing, and she won a James Beard Award for some of her writing a couple of years ago, and then has a new book coming out. And so, yeah, sometimes I'll get recognized at the grocery store, because people will say, "Oh, you're married to that food writer." Yep, that's me.
After these long years in business, could you share what did you learn about business? Do you have any rules?
So many things, right? Obviously, that's why I wrote the book, the Lost and Founder, to try and share some of those. Nazim, I'll probably write another one. I'm hoping in a year or two, I'll start writing another one, because I think there's lots of interesting stories to share from the first few years of SparkToro. Also, gosh, what else would I say? I think that it's different for every different person. There are a lot of similar journeys, but for everyone it's unique. There's no one path. And so I sometimes worry, when I do an interview like this and people ask for advice and input, especially, broad advice, I worry that someone will think, well, Rand's had some moderate degree of success, or done these particular things well, and so he must have an answer to my problem. And sometimes the right answer is the way that you want to solve it, not the way I would solve it. I think that where I see a lot of business advice going wrong is when, an author or someone influential tries to take their journey and presume that because, whatever it is, they've had financial success or their business has done well, presume that what they know applies to everybody. And I think that's rarely the case. I think it's very often true that business is very different for every person, and the advice that worked for one person might not work well for you. In fact, it might lead you off the wrong path. There's not a lot of universals.
When you think about any new venture, you probably consider different options. Is it good for me, for God, for people? And will it make any profit? That's probably another sheet of paper. And sometimes one can overweight another.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's something vague, which you cannot explain, but you just know that there is something, and you go there. And in after a few years, you understand that you were wrong or you were right. So,
Yeah.
do you rely on such feelings when you decide something, or is it just research, analysis, and discussions with your colleagues, partners?
I would say I'm probably 70 or 80% logic and analysis, right? I think this thing is going to work because of these reasons, because this is how we think about, the market, and these are our values, and this is what we want to contribute to the world. And then I'd say that there's 20%, 30% sometimes a gut feel. I can't explain why exactly I think this is going to work, but I think this is going to work, and we'll go with it. And sometimes I think those gut feels can mislead you. Absolutely. You got to, I think over a long period of time, as you get to know yourself and as you have more and more experience, you know when to, in what circumstances your gut is often right and in what circumstances it's wrong. And you know when to double check yourself and when to believe in yourself. But when I was young, I definitely made a lot of those gut decisions that turned out to be wrong, because I didn't know when to trust myself. I hadn't learned and iterated and found the pitfalls in my thinking yet. And as I've gotten older, I think this is one of the blessings of getting older, right? Is that you've had more time to self-critique. You have more experiences to draw on. When you get a funny feeling, often when it's right or wrong. That helps.
So, aging not bad always.
No, definitely not. I mean, it's not great for how you feel in the morning.
Yeah. By the way, what motivates you to get out of the bed every morning?
Oh my gosh. I mean, for me now, it's a variety of things. I think for a long time, a big motivating factor in my life, especially at Moz, was guilt. Just feeling that I owed people, my company, my employees, my customers, my investors, feeling like I was never living up to the promise that I had for them. And now I would say guilt is a much smaller portion of my motivation in life. Today, a lot of what motivates me is wanting to help people see that a different path is possible. So especially around the stuff we were talking about earlier with SparkToro's funding structure and how unique that is. I know, I mean, as frustrating as it is, if SparkToro becomes a very big success, sort of financially and influence-wise, right? Lots and lots of people look up to SparkToro. I think many more people will be inspired to start companies like ours with models that are not venture-backed, but are instead, hey, let's try to build something profitable and long-term that doesn't have to go public, doesn't have to sell, doesn't have to be worth, $1 billion or get 100x return on its invested dollars. And that, I think, would be transformative. That would be a wonderful legacy to leave for entrepreneurs and for the economy as a whole, which I really do believe economies where there is more diversity, right? Many companies contributing smaller amounts rather than a few big giants dominating the entire sector, which is what we've been moving toward for the last couple hundred years. I think if we can strengthen the small and medium businesses and create more diversity in the economy, that is good for every single thing that you might want to care about, right? From wealth inequality to climate change to being able to survive downturns better, more political equality, everything you want. So that's something I'd love to contribute to. That's a huge motivator for me, right? I sort of see SparkToro is going to be a drop in the bucket, but I want to make that drop as big as I can, right? Like, it's okay to be a drop in a bucket. I've accepted. I'm not, I'm not a big spigot. I'm not a big player. Uh, but if I can make a difference there, that would be very meaningful to me. Yeah, however long I'm on the earth.
Yeah, that's a great goal. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rand, for talking. I was planning to talk about SparkToro and how our users can use it, but
Oh,
I couldn't not to ask you those questions.
no,
Because
I love talking about this stuff. And when it comes to SparkToro specifically, the good news is it's a very simple product. So people can sign up for free and they can try it out and watch some videos. And yeah, it's easy to figure out. But I love
yeah,
talking
and
about these.
you also have those short 2-minute videos,
Yeah,
tutorials on your website, which
we do.
explain a lot.
Yeah. I try and keep them, snappy and a little fun, and I'll kind of show off a problem. Um, I think the only problem is I haven't given them a clever name, right? At Moz, I had the Whiteboard Friday name. I need to come up with a clever name for my little 2-minute videos.
You can use ChatGPT. Yeah, it comes up with great names. Just tell
All
great
right, I'll just
different titles for this top. We integrated ChatGPT into our platform and just experimenting with that. It's really interesting. It's really powerful.
yeah,
So
fun. All
you can
right,
use it for
I'll
for
I'll have to give
titles.
that a spin.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rand.
Nazim, pleasure to be
Yeah.
here. Thanks for having me.